I'll start recording it as well.
Excellent.
I have to turn everybody up.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Finance Committee of the Board of Education. We have kind of an exciting agenda for tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and get started at 6:02. Our first order of business is approving the minutes from our October meeting. These minutes were sent out, very short meeting. If anybody had any comments or questions about them? Pretty straightforward. So all in favor of approving the minutes from October 13th, please say aye or raise your hand. And Sarah, are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining, yeah.
One abstention. Thank you, Sarah. For public comments, we did get one comment via email, which we usually don't read out loud at the meeting, but it's only one, so I'll read it. Comment is from Mandy Singh at 73 North Sarah Hill Road, who writes, I'm a parent at Cranberry Elementary School, and I'm writing concerning the proposal to reduce the MLL teacher position at Cranberry from full-time to part-time. We have a large and active MLL population at Cranberry, so I do not understand why it's being proposed to reduce our full-time position to half-time. Our current MLL teacher has been instrumental in engaging the MLL parents in our school community by volunteering her time to help translate and facilitate monthly outreach meetings for these families, starting last school year and continuing this year. As the Cranberry PTO president, I attend these monthly outreach meetings as well, and these parents have repeatedly expressed that since starting these meetings, it is the first time they have felt included and involved at Cranberry. I'm very concerned that reducing our full-time position to half-time will have a huge negative impact on the progress we are making in engaging and including these families. Thank you for your time and consideration. And thank you, Mandy, for that comment. We will certainly take it into consideration when this proposal is considered.
Actually, if we could respond to it now, it would be helpful, because
Sure.
there's a number of things. Kristen looked into it, and it's.
I could actually speak to that if you want. So at Cranberry, that budget transfer she's referring to was from last month, and I think it only gives you a portion of the view. At the beginning of the school year, there were 2 MLL teachers allocated to Cranberry. The MLL department uses a 1 to 50 student ratio, and Cranberry has a little bit over 50 MLL students. So based on that, they're sufficiently staffed. They actually ended up after the first week of school with 1.5 MLL teachers at Cranberry. So just to clarify, the full-time teacher that's there is staying full-time. The second teacher is 0.5 split with an additional school that qualified due to the formula. So I hope that clarifies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that clarification. And thank you, Mandy, again, for bringing that up. Okay, so tonight we have a few items for review and possible action, starting with the budget transfers. So Kristen, we already covered that one. I don't know if you want to walk us through anything major from the others.
Sure, I can just run through them really quick. The first one is related to how we typically talk about the IEPs and caseload adjustments. It's really just taking a vacant position and splitting the teacher special ed position into 2 para positions at the schools that qualify under the formula. The second transfer is for $86,000, and that is just a shift in departments due to one of the members moving from the HR department to the communications family center. And that's really just an accounting change due to the project and the department code. The next one has to do with a shift at Tracy, moving textbook hardcover book money that was not needed at this point to cover another lunch monitor at Tracy for $29,640. The next one is just moving the electricity funding from to the maintenance shop So that was just really budgeting versus usage and how that ended up. The next one is shifting funding to cover the shortfall in the maintenance supply account. So maintenance supplies needed to be covered for 31,000, and it's taking it from other pieces within the facilities department. The next account is also facilities related. It is to shift funding from general supplies to cover the cost of an increase in water and boiler repairs district-wide. Not a lot of money there, 10,000 for district-wide. The next transfer for 14,282 is to shift funding from Nathan Hale Middle School electricity to the Norwalk High electricity account, and that's just also doing budgeting versus usage. So really just putting it in the right project code for reporting purposes. The next three items listed here have to do with taking administrators that were budgeted within the 114 code, which is an educational administrator, and really just reclassifying them to a 115 code, which represents a supervisor, an assistant, or assistant educational administrator. So that's just really changing the object code to have proper reporting. The 40,000 on the next line is shifting funding from the reserve teacher account in order to accommodate a paraeducator that was requested in the classroom due to class size overage. So we had the reserve teacher funding built in the budget for paras and teachers when the class size goes over, and it's to remedy that. The next one is at Nathan Hale, and that is to change the vacant library media specialist position to a library media assistant position per the request of the principal and to fit the current needs at the school for 45,000 for the remainder of this year only. Redistribution of funds used for teachers position to several paras. These next two go together, the last two. 16,000 for a para, 70,000 for repairs and maintenance. This was done at Fox Run, and it was a vacancy, teacher vacancy that was not able to be filled and not needed at this point. It was instructional, and it was used to beautify the building, utilizing the funding that's sitting there vacant. So that's what's going on with that. The last two go together.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Kirsten. Are there any questions or comments from board members on these budget transfers? Seems pretty straightforward to me. And as I always like to remind the public that, when we pass a budget and we approve a budget, it's a plan, it's a roadmap. It's not exactly an indication of how everything will go. So these transfers are helping us to correct the actuals as they come in. So thank you, Kristen.
Yep.
Okay. If there are no questions, all in favor of approving these budget transfers, please say aye or raise your hand. Or rather say aye because I can't see your hands.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Transfers are approved and we can move right along to the monthly financial report.
Okay, so monthly financial report, you have the October report now in your package, and we are 4 months into the fiscal year, so we're 33% of the way through the fiscal year, but only 20% of the way through the school year. High level, everything is really running about as we would expect it. The salary accounts, as you can see here on the summary, we spent 27.8 million, which is just slightly less than the amount we had spent at the same time last year. Benefits is very much in line with where we expect to be at this point. Professional services are running a little bit higher, but are running very much within budget. Property services, which is custodial services and other various expenses related to our buildings are running a little higher than they were at this point last year, and we are going to watch these accounts, but we believe that we have sufficient flexibility within our existing budget to cover any areas here that that may need transfers in as we progress through the year. We believe that we've got funding in this budget to cover our needs in this area. Other services, the 500 series is primarily special education out of district tuition and also student transportation. Student transportation is running on budget. Special ed tuitions are running on budget at this point. So we don't foresee any difficulties there. Our 600 series supplies and materials is showing a pretty sizable increase compared to our expenditures last year at the same time. I think I mentioned this to the board or to the finance committee last month, that this is the account where the carryover money from the last year's budget was brought in. So you see the budget going from 7.8 million to 10.3 million. So really the increase in expenditures in this line is driven by those carryover items, which were primarily the new curriculum that the board authorized the purchase of in June. That has now come in and been paid for. Those materials have come in and been paid for, and that's the reason for that increase there. And there was some of that as well in the equipment line. Some equipment purchases also were part of the carryover. So you can see the budget at 2.3 million and the revised budget at 3.3 million. So that also accounts for the increase in the 700 series. And the 800 object codes are really only a few minor items, and they're running very much on budget. I do have the detailed spreadsheet. Again, I think I've really hit the highlights. I don't think there's anything in particular to draw your attention to here, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Tom. And I know nothing really stood out to me as particularly curious or out of the ordinary. If any of the other committee members have questions or comments?
I know there was one item I was going to mention, and because I did check on this in the benefits area, the Social Security account looked like something was going on there. If you look at the 1.2 million last year, the 542,000 posted this year, that was really just a timing issue. The controller's office records those transactions. They're payroll related, and for whatever reason, the controller's office got a little behind apparently in posting some of the Social Security, the FICA transactions to the general ledger, but they have since been posted. So they were posted through the end of October on November 5th. So
Great. And Tom, I don't know if this is the appropriate forum, but I wonder if you could just give us a very sort of high level opinion about staffing so far. I know there are some lines here. I see that daily substitutes are down from last year.
yeah, I think
about flat. There's been a lot of talk in the media about openings and shortfalls. Can we see from a budget standpoint like how we're doing this year?
Well, it's a little hard to make projections to the end of the year because the HR department is actively still filling positions, but there are definitely more vacancies than we would typically see at this point in the school year. And I think it's it's a combination of probably COVID and the impact that has had on just everything from, employees who have decided they're ready to retire, which we know some people are making that decision. So, we are seeing more retirements mid-year among our teaching staff, or for that matter, more people who are just deciding to leave employment mid-year than we typically used to see. And so, it's hard to know exactly what the drivers of that are. And sometimes it's very individualized decisions, but certainly COVID is a factor, no doubt about it. So at this point, we are projecting that there would be some turn back in our wage accounts. We are seeing, on the other hand, I had mentioned, referenced the facilities area and also some of the special ed areas, and indicated, I believe, that we had the flexibility, the budget flexibility within our current budget to cover any potential budget shortfalls that we could have in either of those two areas. And the reason I feel I can say that with some level of confidence is because we do have some projected turn back in some of the wage accounts at this point. But again, the HR department is still filling positions. And so, if a position is filled next month, then, we don't want to think that it's going to create budget savings through the end of June if somebody is going to be filling that position in December, say. But it is in a number of areas that we have vacancies, and so the turn back in the budget is really in a number of areas at this point. And again, it's not a large number given the variability that we have in our budget. Even the area of energy costs is one that we have to keep our eye on, because that is also something that the economy is, as you're probably aware, there's some concern now over inflation picking up, and the area where that is really has been felt is in energy costs, certainly. And so that could have an impact, or probably will have an impact on our some of our spending as well. So there's a lot of sort of pluses and minuses to keep track of, but overall, I still feel confident that we're operating within a balanced budget.
Thanks, Tom, and fingers crossed for a mild winter.
Right.
Now, it's great to hear that we're still actively hiring. I was asking more about filling those positions in the classrooms than from a budget standpoint, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lisette Cologne will probably be in a better position than I am to tell you exactly, how many vacancies there are and the status of filling them and so on. I do know that they're certainly very actively continuing to recruit and fill positions. So, excellent.
Thank you. Okay, and so I think we usually vote to approve these. So if there's no other questions or comments on the monthly financial report, all in favor of approving this report, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye. And Diana? Still thinking about it. Okay.
Hi, yeah, I was having trouble. I couldn't take it off mute.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, so that's approved. And now we can go on to what I think is a pretty exciting item on the agenda. And if there are no objections from Diana or Sarah, we can address items C, D, and E together. They're all related. Item C is the approval to relocate CMS Magnet School to the Lower Ponus School campus effective 22-23 school year. Related to that, item D is a request to the City of Norwalk to close out the capital projects CO 607 for the new CMS school at Ely and capital project CO 610 for the Norwalk Global Academy. And related to that is a request for a special capital appropriation in the amount of 76 million, which is the amount of those two projects we are going to request to close to fund the acquisition of a new elementary school building site in South Norwalk and to construct a 682-seat pre-K to 5 elementary school on that site.
What's the opposite of objecting? Encouraging?
Yeah, I don't even know if we
Celebrating?
can.
Having a party about?
How can we delay this even more? No.
No.
Be nice now.
So this is something, of course, that has been in discussion for far too long, and it's really great to see us moving forward here. And I want to acknowledge the creative thinking of Dr. Estrella, of Tom Hamilton, the entire cabinet, to find what I think is a very creative solution for a couple school projects in South Norwalk that have felt a little stuck in recent times. So I don't know if Tom or Dr. Estrella, you want to give us any background on what we're voting on tonight?
Sure. So in terms of the CMS magnet school moving to Lower Ponus, one of the we'll present in greater detail on Tuesday to the board in terms of the demographic study that was done in order to look at enrollment projections for the next 10 or so years, and the impact of our enrollment numbers with the association of the new sites that we're considering either opening or considering locating into other buildings. One of the things that we needed to take into consideration as we mapped this out was that our enrollment numbers needed to well aligned to the need. And one of the ways that we were able to address this was by potentially moving CMS to the Lower Ponus school, and then taking into consideration the building of a new South Norwalk school in South Norwalk, because the currently 818 students that currently reside in South Norwalk have a significant impact in terms of the enrollment numbers across the district. And potentially opening up another elementary school within the district would drastically impact the current zoning lines that we have, because we would have to make significant shift otherwise to accommodate the new enrollment numbers within the different zones. By moving CMS to the new Ponus building and building a new South Norwalk school, we are able to minimize the amount of zoning shifts needed to address the relocation of South Norwalk students back into their community. But on the 16th, we'll provide even greater insight. We will have the demographer with us to speak to the implications, the enrollment implications associated with these three projects, and how there's kind of a ripple effect as we engage in moving one school to one location, and then building a new school in South Norwalk, and finally having a place where South Norwalk students can call home.
The other thing I would add with respect to item D and E here is that this proposal is cost neutral to the city of Norwalk, that the request to close out the two capital projects that have, as you know, been sort of were approved a number of years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and have really been stuck. But those authorizations to spend between the two projects, I think my memo included the amounts. It was 41.6 million that was left in the new school at Columbus School at Ely, and 34.4 million that was available in the Norwalk Global Academy, which was the name of the project for that was intended at the time to be the renovation of the old CMS building. There's $76 million that has been authorized that's unspent by the city. And so it represents what's referred to as authorized but unissued debt. And so it's really part of the total amount of indebtedness the city had expected to take on. And in fact, if those projects had happened according to the original schedule, the money would have already been spent. But as we know, that original plan just couldn't happen. And this alternative would allow us to finally move forward with building the South Norwalk Neighborhood School that people have been waiting for so long. The $76 million that we've requested in item E is the same amount of authorization that is being closed out in item B. So again, there's no increased bonding requirement as a result of this action. And so it's really quite exciting. And obviously this is a big shift, a big decision, but hopefully it receives favorable action from the board and then can be forwarded on to the city. Item C is really rests solely within the Board of Education to make that decision to relocate the CMS magnet to the Lower Ponus campus. The building will become available at the start of next school year as the Jefferson School project is expected to be completed this summer, and the Jefferson students will then move back to the Jefferson building. And items D and E are, as you know, appropriations that will need to be, well, item E is an appropriation that will need to be approved through the city's special capital appropriation process, which means it has to go to the mayor. It has to go to the, I believe, the Planning Commission for a recommendation, and ultimately be approved by the Common Council. So in order to move the project along, the intention is to be in a position so that the district can file a school building grant application on the new South Norwalk Neighborhood School for June of 2022. And so there's a number of steps that have to happen between now and June in order for that to be ready to go. But the appropriation is the first step. So that's why it's important to move that forward.
And I think one last point that I would make, one of the things that as we looked at this project, and you will learn more about on the 16th, when the demographer presents some of his findings, is that originally, given the current budget that we had and some of the size restrictions that we would have had to uphold, CMS could have run the risk of losing their middle school program. By moving them to the Ponus campus, it allows them to maintain the K-8 structure and have adequate space to potentially even have a pre-K program, which will be in alignment to what we've been wanting to do across the district, is have pre-K programs throughout all of our elementary schools. So it kind of allows them to have the program they've developed, expand their middle school to an additional section, a grade, as well as offer them the opportunity to collaborate with another middle school on campus, especially because the CMS middle school component will be small. It gives them the opportunity to be part of campus sports. It allows the two schools to have opportunities to engage in collaborative programming that will expand the portfolio of choices for students at CMS. So it really will foster an enormous amount of learning opportunities for the CMS community in this new site. We have already scheduled a site visit with teachers as well as parents next Monday for them to just have a sense of the space and have an understanding of what the space looks like and how it is well equipped to meet the educational needs of the school community. Because to us, it's really important that the environment matches the philosophical approach of the school and what they've been historically known to do. And the space really is well suited to do that for the CMS community. And at the same token, it will allow us to have a school of over 658 students in South Norwalk to satisfy the 818 student need that we have in that area.
Excellent. Thank you so much for clarifying. And I think it's a very important point that what we're reviewing tonight is a cost neutral option and does not add to the capital expenditure that's already been approved. It's great. I think it's, again, we had a lot of moving pieces to try to cater for here. And it seems like this, if anything, is a win-win-win, and it also reduces any potential redistricting, which is fantastic for our entire community. And I know that I think we had an opportunity for some of the CMS families to hear about these plans and comment on them this week, and it seems like a lot of the response has been very positive.
Yes,
yeah, go ahead.
So we had a really productive meeting with the CMS community this week, and the feedback overall was very positive. They're very excited about this possibility. So I hope that we can move forward with this proposal, because the enthusiasm that I saw meeting with the teachers, with the SGC, and earlier this week with the parents, they're really looking forward for this to become a reality. I have a meeting tentatively either November 18 or I believe this at some point in December with the South Norwalk community to further engage in this conversation. I know that Dr. Lewis spoke to the Ponus community about the fact that they will remain as a 6-8 school, and there was no issue raised about that possibility. So we're really excited about the fact that so far the community has well received this plan, and I hope that all of the ducks line up so that we can move forward in providing CMS, the school, the new building that they've been waiting for, and at the same time providing a school in South Norwalk that is long overdue.
And it's very long overdue, and it's very exciting to see some movement on it. I want to make sure if Diana or Sarah have any questions or comments, open the floor.
I actually did want to say, if I could, that this is a process that I've been a part of since I was on the SGC at CMS a really long time ago. I don't even remember how long ago, but it was when my oldest daughter, who's a junior, was at CMS. So it's amazingly wonderful to see movement potentially happening. And also, Principal Thomas was saying that, remembering that we went through a process where the kiddos at CMS got to design ideas that they would have for their new school. And in his looking at Ponus and at that campus, he was like, well, you couldn't get closer to the ideas that they had than this beautiful, wonderful building that has this STEAM, was included in the planning and the design. And so I think it's really wonderful. And then we can make space for a beautiful school in South Norwalk and get everybody what they need. So I'm delighted.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm extremely excited. Just knowing from experience of growing up in South Norwalk and not having the opportunity of going to school in South Norwalk, And then recently just meeting a lot of the families from CMS. I mean, I have met them before, but having the conversations and how happy that they all seem that their children are going to be able to, make memories like a lot of other children here in Norwalk, and having a brand new school and feeling that someone has listened to them, is actually paying attention to them. And I just want to give kudos to Dr. Stray and her team for the hours and time that they have spent, in front of the public eye and behind closed doors, talking to the state, talking to the city. It's definitely not an easy process. And I am excited to hear that everything is moving forward for all the families in South Norwalk.
Here, here, absolutely. Yes. And understanding that, as Tom said, we do have many ducks to get in a row here, but this is the first duck. I think it's safe to say on behalf of Sarah and Diana that we are thrilled to get this process moving, and hope that our partners in the city will be just as thrilled to see this progress that is, as we already said, cost neutral to the city.
We can show them that picture of me in the hard hat.
Oh yeah. Good bookend, Sarah, to your whole tenure. So, Sarah, do you want to make a motion? We can approve these three together if nobody.
I do.
objects.
I move to approve items C, D, and E on this agenda, and all
And-
that entails.
Excellent. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yay! One step closer. Fantastic.
Awesome.
And again, as Diana said, reiterating the appreciation that a lot of people put the work that people put into this. It's been a big lift. So we appreciate it.
And just so that you are aware, we have a meeting scheduled Friday with the state. So the conversations continue to move forward. So we're really excited about this project and really looking forward to putting this application through in June so that long overdue dream becomes a reality. So thank you.
Fingers and toes crossed. I'll be at the airport, but I'm going to try to call into that meeting as well. Excellent. So that is approved to go onto the full board. One step down, a few more to go, but I'm feeling really good about it. And again, just really grateful to the entire CMS community, our South Norwalk students who have been, really waiting for this for a very long time. And so we can end on a high note. That was the last item on the agenda. I want to thank everyone for their participation tonight and for all the work that goes into this. We know it's all for our kids, and they deserve it. So thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay, no, I.
We are adjourned. I will see you all very soon. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
And thank you,
Bye.
Sarah, for everything. Oh, it's